Okay, we should be live, guys. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Chicago Conservative Live Stream Edition. Today, we got a very, very special video for you guys. Now, to my knowledge, this debate that's been going on between Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz, it's sparking a lot of controversy, guys, about, foreign governments and things like that. I don't really want to give away too much because I want to, try to at least surprise some of you guys who haven't seen this. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we finna hop right into this, guys. And make sure you guys like and subscribe if you're new.
Senator, thank you very much for spending the time to have this conversation.
It's good to be with you.
So you've come out for regime change in Iran, as distinct just from taking out the nuclear sites. What does regime change look like in Iran?
Somebody else in charge.
How do you get there?
Look, that ultimately has to be a popular uprising from the people. And it's not a complicated question. Is America better off with a country that has a leader who hates us and wants to kill us, or to have a country with a leader who likes us and wants to be friends with us? And
definitely the latter is better.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so that's not a complicated statement. Look, I believe you look across the world when you have countries that have dictators that are viciously anti-America. Venezuela, Maduro hates us. Would we be better off with Maduro out of power? Absolutely. I want our enemies out of power, and I want our friends in power.
I could not agree more. The question is, how do you get there?
Of course.
And we've been trying to kill Maduro for quite some time. We have troops there.
I don't know that we've been trying to kill Maduro.
We have. And I think you know that. And
I don't know that.
Okay. Well, as a statement of fact, we have. So
we do have massive sanctions. We tried to pressure him out of office.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of it.
I'm just saying there's a lot of pressure coming from various parts of the U.S. government on that government, and it's still there.
Yeah.
I took control, went solo.
Sorry about that.
Country of our ancestors, Cuba, 1959, we've been working on that. Hasn't worked. So I think we both agree it's hard.
Reasonable to ask, how do we produce that? And I think there's a distinction between what your objective is and the means to get it. There are all sorts of things I would say we would be better off. We'd be better off in China without Xi there. Should we invade China and topple Xi? Of course not.
Better off with no national debt.
There are lots of things.
Totally.
But it's good to say, all right, what are our objectives?
Right.
And so with the Ayatollah in Iran, saying you're for regime change, I don't view as complicated. I mean, the guy literally leads mobs chanting death to America. Mm-hmm. So that's not good.
Definitely not good. But the reason I think it's important to get a little more detailed about how that might happen is because there's military action in progress, which we're supporting. And the president has said clearly, including last night, that he is focused on eliminating the capacity of the Iranian government to produce nuclear weapons. You are saying...
See, now here's my thing about that, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm not denying that Iran has a nuclear weapon, but can they at least show us the nuclear war program that Iran was doing at least? I mean, we do know that Iran is definitely a threat to America. Let's not play stupid here. They hate America's guts. They hate Israel guts and stuff like that. It's just it wouldn't be good for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I'm just putting that out there, okay, ladies and gentlemen. But the thing is, where the hell is the nuclear weapon? I don't want to get in war. See, look, at the end of the day, guys, I'm America first. I care about America. This isn't make Israel great again. This is make America great again. And that's kind of what they've been clowning Ted Cruz on, guys, from, after this interview that he did with Tucker Carlson. I'm just being honest with you guys. But the thing is this, when we do all of these, proxy wars and in the Middle East and things like that, my thing is, what benefit do we get out of this? Because the only one that's really benefited from this, guys, and I'm not trying to sound like an anti-Semite or anything, but the only ones that benefit from this is Israel. Now, we do benefit by not getting blown up and stuff like that, but it's like we don't really have beef. Even when it comes to the Iraq war, guys, I don't even agree with the Iraq war. I don't think America should have got involved with that. That's just my opinion. look, I've been kind of causing a lot of controversy when it comes to these wars and stuff like that lately. So if you guys disagree, just let me know in the comments. But that's just my opinion, guys. I don't think we should have got in the Iraq war. But yes, I do agree with that as well. A lot of it is religious, but let's just continue, guys. Make sure you guys like and subscribe coming in, please.
We need to use military force.
Hold on. Before we start, my guy, I thought I said that already. I'm pretty sure he probably came in late. But I said Iran should not. I can't see what they said. Sorry. Yeah, I said Iran shouldn't have any nuclear weapons to later attack us. I said that already, Abba's child. You probably came in late.
To effect regime change.
I have not said that.
Oh, I must have.
No, I have not said that once.
Okay.
I don't think we need to use military force to do regime change. I said I support it. I would like to see it happen. You asked me how should it happen?
Dang, man, I don't want to keep pausing, man, because it's like 2 hours long, guys. But I'm sorry, I gotta say this. Trump is for regime change in the Middle East. Now, when it comes to Iran, me personally, I don't really like the United States getting involved with these Middle Eastern politics. It's really a regime or a dictatorship, whatever you want to call it. Even when it comes to, Hamas and Gaza. Hamas was actually elected in 2001, ladies and gentlemen. So we can't be we can't. Now, look, I do feel sorry about what's going on when it comes to that's why I'm trying to use my words very, very, very lightly here, guys. But I do feel for the people in Gaza that's getting blown up and stuff like that, because 2/3 of the population in Gaza is women and children, and Hamas does tend to hide within civilians. So Hamas is a bunch of cowards. And it's not just Hamas, it's the Houthis, Hezbollah, things like that as well. But when it comes to Hamas in general, they was elected in 2001, guys. So let's not forget that. They are the ones, Gaza is the one that put Hamas in power. Just throwing that out there, okay? But do I think what's going on out there is right? No, absolutely not. I don't want anybody dying, by the way. I don't want any Jews dying. I don't want any Palestinians dying. I don't want any. I damn sure don't want no Americans dying. So I'm just throwing that out there.
A popular uprising. What I've advocated for. All right, let's step back a second. You and I, we've known each other a long time. I would say we agree on about 80% of the things on Earth.
For sure.
And there are a lot of things, and we can get into the nitty-gritty of foreign policy as much as you want. There are a lot of things on which you and I agree, not just a little bit, but violently.
I totally agree. I was rooting for it in your last campaign, for sure.
Well, thank you.
I see a comment that's interesting. They said Cruz not president, so who cares what he thinks? Now, the only reason why this is very, very controversial right now, ladies and gentlemen, is because they're saying that Ted Cruz, I mean, to me, it's looking like they calling him a neocon. That's what they saying, okay? That's what they saying. It's looking like he a neocon. But the thing is, doesn't he receive funding from like AIPAC and stuff like that? Like, I mean, I don't really know if he's Jewish or Christian or something like that, but I do know that he is funded by AIPAC. And he does support Israel heavily. So I'm not sure, if it's a little bias when it comes to Ted Cruz, but me personally, we just gonna have to see, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you guys like and subscribe coming in.
Look, you have been heroic on the border. You've been one of the clearest and best voices in the whole country on securing the border and on the absolute crisis we're facing. And in Texas, I see it and live it every day. In COVID, in fact, you may recall in the middle of the COVID lockdown, I was out walking my dog when the whole world was shut down and we were living in lunatic times. And I called you and said, Tucker, your nightly monologues are the single best thing on television. Like I watch them like an injection of crack. Okay, I'm mixing my metaphor because you don't inject crack, but you get what I'm saying. No, I mean, you were standing up and speaking like, what the hell are we doing, in a way that we desperately, desperately needed. And so whether it's securing the border, whether it's the insanity of COVID lockdowns and the vaccine mandates, whether it is the Second Amendment or the First Amendment, you and I agree on a ton of stuff. The 20% where we...
And I still don't understand why Dr. Fouchy has a pardon, ladies and gentlemen. I thought COVID was killing people. Now, I don't want to keep talking about this because that's what got my channel banned. But guys, did he or did he not receive a pardon? And wasn't it electrically signed by Joe Biden? Correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm just asking, guys, why the hell does Dr. Fauci need a pardon? I know it's off topic, but come on, man. You telling on yourself at that point. If you didn't do anything wrong, why do you need a pardon? That's just common sense. If you're innocent, you don't need a pardon, plain and simple. But then people say, oh, well, the system, the establishment's going to come after us. So, yes, we need a pardon because they're going to try to rig the system and they're going to try to do some illegal stuff to get us locked up. That means if they're the crooks, you can expose the system or the government for them being crooked, trying to set you up, into doing something that you didn't do. You guys see what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense to me. Like what benefit? We'll continue. I don't want to go too much off topic when it comes to COVID, but what benefit does that serve the people by giving Dr. Fauci a pardon? That doesn't make sense at all.
We disagree. I do think is meaningful, and it's mostly in the foreign policy space. And what I would say, if you'll allow me to get a little theoretical, and then I'm happy to get specific.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ted.
For a long time, people have...
Don't get me wrong, guys. I love Ted Cruz. You can hate him, you can love him, but look, man, you gotta love Ted Cruz, man. Like, now he might be a neocon, stuff like that, but this dude is definitely a patriot. He's gonna definitely fight against this crazy leftist rhetoric that's going on out here in America, guys. You can love him, you can hate him, but you gotta respect him. You gotta respect Ted Cruz, especially as a conservative, guys. You gotta respect him. Now, I like Ted Cruz, but Tuck is my brother. Tucker Carlson is literally my brother. Tucker Carlson is my brother, ladies and gentlemen. Like, if I would have to choose, yes, I am going to be a little biased when it comes to this because I do like Ted Cruz, but I love Tucker Carlson, bro. Everybody loves Tuck.
People have perceived two different poles of Republican foreign policy. There have been interventionists, and those have been people like John McCain and Lindsey Graham, George W. Bush. And there have been isolationists. And the most prominent of those have been Ron Paul and Rand Paul, and there are others. And people perceive those are the two choices. You got to be one or the other. I've always thought both were wrong. I don't agree with either one. The way I view my own foreign policy...
I'm with you, by the way, for whatever it's worth.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Okay, good.
I don't know who set up that binary, but there are lots of choices, actually.
I mean, people sort of naturally fall into... I think they want to classify people, and they're like, okay, you're one or the other, and you got to be all or nothing. And the interventionists, it seems, have never seen a country they didn't want to invade, and that doesn't make any sense to me. And the isolationists, I think, don't take the threats to America seriously, and I think that's naive and it doesn't work. And so my view, I consider myself a third point on the triangle. And what I describe that as is that I am a non-interventionist hawk, which sounds a little weird, but what do I mean by that?
I was just about to say, what the hell? Now, look, guys, I don't want to sound like a dummy or anything, but what the actual hell does that even mean? Can somebody please tell me what that means in the comments? I hate to be stupid, but what?
I mean, the central touch point for U.S. foreign policy and for any question of military intervention should be the vital national security interest of the United States. How does this make?
Okay, but the thing is this, though. Does other countries care as much as we do when it comes to letting other countries, basically spy on us, do whatever they want? Like, we shouldn't be. Listen, I'm just gonna be honest, guys. America, when it comes to our government, guys, I'm just gonna be honest. We are very, very soft. We're very, very soft, and we're gullible. We're gullible as hell. We let in Chinese. We let in all type of people from all around the world, guys. People from the Middle East, even people from Great Britain, people from Australia, all over the world. These people could literally be spies. Oh, just come on in. Come on in. Yes. We don't know. People from Russia, them people are the top spies, in my opinion. Russians and Americans, of course. But my thing is this, guys. America is just too gullible when it comes to our government. But listen, I'm not trying to be. Well, you know what? We're gonna go to them later. But even when it comes to other governments like Great Britain, or I don't know, I don't want to say Israel's government, because I don't want to get there yet. But when it comes to these other governments, guys, they're not as gullible as we are, if that makes sense. Like, they're not going to be as, sharing, and they're not just going to give all of their intelligence away to other countries. I just think that's pretty stupid. I genuinely think that's dumb.
Make America safer? How does this protect Americans? If it does, we should be strong. And actually, another way of conceiving what I'm saying, I'm speaking theoretically, but Reagan referred to it as peace through strength. And actually, I think Donald Trump's foreign policy is very much what I'm describing, a non-interventionist hawk, where he understands that, and I think this is historically true, the best way to avoid war is being strong. That weakness and isolationism, I think, encourages war.
I agree.
So going back to regime change, where you started in Iran.
I don't think I disagree with anything you've said. So we may not be that far apart, really, because you said that the single criterion for making decisions about America's foreign policy is America's national interest.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. Which is also America first. That's another way of putting that as well. I think
it's the definition of it.
Yeah.
It's hardly breaking news that the U.S. dollar has been gravely devalued.
I love you, Tug, but we got people in the chat, man. I don't want to skip you, man, but he do be having them nice ass, though.
Of real human.
So I think we are. And from what you've said publicly, I think on Iran in particular, you and I disagree. And all right, let me contrast it when Obama was president. When Obama was president, you remember he talked about wanting to have military action against Syria.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I tried to keep an open mind to it. I said, okay, let me listen to the commander-in-chief describe to me how...
Which a lot of people don't talk about. A lot of people don't talk about a lot of things that Obama did when it came to the Middle East. They don't talk about what he did to Lebanon. That's why they call him Obama. They call him Obama for a reason. He was bombing kids, ladies and gentlemen, in the Middle East. And I think it was from a operation called Operation or Project Sycamore or something like that. And I think he was working with some military agents in I believe, what was it? I believe it's the UK and Syria, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
How this is in America's interest and what your plan is. And Bashar Assad was a bad guy. He was killing his own citizens and he had chemical weapons that were very dangerous. I could conceive of a commander-in-chief laying out a plan for, okay, we're going to go in and say, grab the chemical weapons and leave. Like I could see that if there was a real threat to America and there was a plan to prevent that, I could see supporting that. So I wanted to hear what he had to say. And I listened both in classified briefings and public questioning. And number one, their public defense of it was incoherent. So John Kerry said, we're going to engage in an unbelievably small strike. I think that's a quote. I'm like, okay, and to do what? At the time, there were 9 major rebel Islamic groups in Syria. I'm like, okay, I agree, Bashar Assad's a bad guy. You topple him. And one of the 9 other groups takes over. 7 of them were affiliated with radical Islamic terrorism. You had Al-Qaeda and Al-Nusra. I'm like, wait, how is it better to have lunatics who hate us in charge? Assad's a bad guy, but I don't want worse guys in charge. Obama administration couldn't give an answer to that. And ultimately, when you press them, John Kerry in particular, I pressed, and he would say, well, we need to defend international norms. Like, what the hell's an international norm? I don't know what it is, but I'm not interested in putting U.S. servicemen and women in harm's way to defend one.
Amen.
So I opposed the Syria attack and opposed it vocally. And it was interesting. Rand and I agreed. Rand's a friend of mine, but we agreed with that position for different reasons. What I was asking is I think the question we should ask, how does this make America safer? The Obama administration couldn't give me an answer, so I opposed it. I think Iran is very different.
Let me ask what you think of how Syria wound up, because Bashar al-Assad now lives in Moscow.
Yeah.
He was taken out by our allies, and he's been replaced by a radical Islamist who was affiliated with ISIS. So is that a win or no?
Unclear. Look, Syria's a mess, so I've consistently opposed.
But we had a secular leader in a religious and ethnically diverse country. Now we have a religious extremist, Islamic religious extremist, who's overseeing the purge of Christians and Alawites. Is that better? That doesn't seem like a win.
One of the things you said is you said he was taken out by our allies. I don't think that's right. Israel didn't take Assad out. What happened, and I'll tell you.
What about Turkey?
Turkey didn't take him out. So it was interesting. I had a long.
How did Assad get kicked out?
Yeah.
Right.
When Netanyahu was in D.C. a couple of months ago, he and I sat down for a couple of hours. He's a good friend of mine, and we talked.
He's a good friend of yours. Come on, man. I'm not saying it like that, but Ted. Now I think we starting to get into the video where this is what people was talking about, man. Oh, Bibi Netanyahu, great friend of mine. Man, this dude, honestly, Benjamin Netanyahu is supposed to be in jail, guys. He has so much legal action in Tel Aviv and Israel, guys. It's absolutely ridiculous. Before October 7th, he was actually going to be prosecuted. A lot of people don't know that. So this war actually saved, him from being, charged.
Talked actually about Syria. He made an interesting point that I've not heard anywhere else, in that he said he believes what toppled Assad was when Israel took out Nasrallah. Nasrallah was the head of Hezbollah, and they took him out. And he made an interesting point. He said it's fascinating how a charismatic leader, and Bibi said, look, Nasrallah was a very effective terrorist leader. And when they took him out, that power base was supporting Assad. And that ultimately, in Bibi's analysis, removed the support from Assad and toppled him. But they weren't trying to take out Assad. My view now, I don't know.
So you don't think that, and I don't, it is very confusing, and I don't know that anyone really knows all the details, but you don't think that Israel or Turkey or NATO ally Turkey played any role in toppling Assad?
I don't know. I don't know that they did. Look, my understanding of that, they clearly took out Nasrallah and Hezbollah. They've decimated Hezbollah, but Hezbollah was waging war on them. So decimating Hezbollah was very good for Israel and very good for America too. I mean, Hezbollah hated us.
Okay. Now, I have to say this. All of this, okay, listen. Now look, I don't really condone people saying death to America and things like that. And, the thing is this. What's going on, Nicole? The thing is this, though, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when they do things like catastrophic events like 9/11, which is still questionable, but when they do things like that, ladies and gentlemen, then that's when we take full action. When these people say, they hate us. Okay, but did Hezbollah attack any Americans? I mean, I understand, that they was attacking Turkey and stuff like that. But I hate to sound like an asshole, but that doesn't really have anything to do with America. I mean, yes, Hezbollah doesn't like Americans, but what, ultimately, what are they doing to Americans, guys? So let's just keep going. I'm speaking from an America first point of view, guys. I understand things happen in other countries. I understand stuff happens, okay? But I'm really trying to focus on America right now. We got too much national debt to keep giving Israel money, guys. What we give them, like what, $5 billion a year? What, 2, 3, 4, 5 billion a year? I believe it's like 3 to 5 billion. Come on, man. That's way too much money.
I would put Assad in the category of an unintended consequence, and whether it's good or bad, I don't know. I think time will tell.
For the United States.
Yeah, for the United States. I think time will tell the new leadership there. You're right to be concerned. Let me step back and let's talk regime change generally. I mentioned Syria. I also oppose the Iraq War. I think the Iraq War was a serious mistake. And we have a pattern, and going back to this.
I said that earlier. We had no business in Iraq. I don't care what nobody says. We had no business in Iraq, man. And if anybody want to, debate me about that in the comments, let me know. But in my opinion, first of all, why are we attacking Iraq? You know what I'm saying? Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't what's his name? I don't know why I'm forgetting his name right now. Osama bin Laden, wasn't he? I don't think he was in Iraq, guys. I think he was somewhere around like in Syria, Sudan or something like that. Or if I'm wrong, I could be wrong, guys, but I don't know. And then it's the stuff with him being flown out about military plane and stuff like that. Allegedly, we got to say allegedly, guys, because they'll cancel me. Okay, but that's a story for another day.
To this binary of the interventionist and the isolationist. The interventionists advocate over and over again, there's a bad guy, there's a dictator who's doing bad things to his people, and they say, let's go topple him. And you have dictators in the Middle East who are killing radical Islamic terrorists. We come in and topple them. The radical Islamic terrorists take over and they start killing Americans. In my view, how the heck does that help us? Like, Saddam Hussein was a horrible human being. He murdered and tortured people. Unequivocally bad guy. But it got much worse after we toppled him. And you ended up having ISIS rise up. I mean, that was the cause of ISIS, was toppling Saddam Hussein. Same thing in Libya. You had Gaddafi, another horrible guy. That under Obama, we toppled him, and you ended up having radical Islamic warlords taking over. And so it's the question I asked in Syria. Okay, well, what's the plan? And how is this good or bad for the United States? And so I don't think with Iran, I view Iran as very different from Iraq.
But up to that point, you say we disagree. I don't hear really anything. I'm not quite sure what happened in Syria, but I don't know. So, right. But other than that, I don't hear anything I disagree with at all.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're in a complete agreement. I wonder, though, is there a successful regime change that the United States supported that you're aware of in the last 100 years?
Sure. Defeating the Soviet Union and the Soviet Union collapsing, winning the Cold War. That was the most consequential step for U.S. national security interests of our lifetimes.
Okay.
And
so you would classify that as a regime change that we affected?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Look, you and I are in my office. We're sitting next to a painting of Reagan in front of the Brandenburg Gate. And up top are the words, tear down this wall, in German, in the style of the graffiti.
Right.
And I think those are the most important words any leader has said in modern times. And if you look at how Reagan waged the Cold War, and Reagan is very much my model for how to exactly how we should take on China. Now, starting from the point, look, Reagan was not an interventionist. In 8 years, the biggest country Reagan ever invaded was Grenada. he was very reluctant to use U.S. military force.
He didn't respond after the 83 barracks bombings.
You're right. Yeah, he made the judgment that the risk exceeded the benefits. And that's a very rational decision to make. And it's reflected. Trump has made those same decisions where he is willing to use military force, but he very much asks, okay, is this good or bad for America? Does this endanger?
I do got to give him that point, guys, because even when it comes to these recent strikes on Iran nuclear war facilities, right? Well, excuse me, nuclear war programs, right? And Fordell, I believe he used a missile that just took out. I mean, Fordell, that it's like a bunker or something under a mountain or something like that, right? I believe that's where the operation was going on. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he had a bomb the size of like a washing machine, I should say. And it basically just went down inside and blew up the whole operation. So, and he did that to 3 other places as well. Another place being Esfahan and what's the last one? I know it was Fordell, Esfahan, and somewhere else, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong.
U.S. servicemen and women or not. And one of the points about the Cold War, look, nobody in their right mind wanted a shooting war between America and the Soviet Union. The 2 biggest nuclear powers on Earth firing bullets at each other is really unhealthy for human beings. Same thing is true with China. Nobody with any sense says, hey, let's go to war with China. That's really dumb, and a whole lot of people could die. But the Cold War showed we've got lots of tools short of sending the Marines to fight against a regime. And one of the most important tools is the bully pulpit. And so when I say I support regime change, I actually think just simply laying out what the Ayatollah does. And so I spend a lot of time, I speak to Iranian dissident groups. I speak out against human rights abuses. I think shining a light on the depravity of leaders is a really powerful tool that America has.
Should we limit our activity to that?
It depends. Again,
because the U.S. government pays opposition groups, militarized opposition groups in Iran to overthrow the government. We've done that in a lot of different places, as you know. I'm not saying it's bad, but that's very different from what you're.
But when it comes down, see, listen, man, Trump is for regime change. But my thing is this, is it really gonna change any narratives or any beliefs when it comes to the people in the Middle East and like Iran, Iraq, Sudan? I could go on all day. Al-Qaeda, is this really gonna change these people's like narrative? Pakistan, Palestine. I'm not really sure if, a regime change is really going to change their beliefs because, at the end of the day, it's religious, guys. Like, it just all boils down to religion, their beliefs. And I've never read the Quran or anything like that. I don't think I would ever read a Quran ever in my life. But, it just sounds crazy. I'm not trying to disrespect nobody religion, like anything like that. But it just sounds just off the wall. It just sounds off the wall, man. That's all I'm gonna say.
What you're describing, you're saying